And we're live. Shayla Gifford, how are you?
Good, Bill. Thank you so much for having me. You're a legend in this world, let alone our industry. And so
Well,
this is big. This is big for me to be on with you. Thank you.
that is very kind. And anybody saw the Facebook promotion would see that I used the same word for you.
Oh,
That you are legendary. You just hit it much earlier in life than I did, right? So that's I'm as excited about this as you are. So let's just have some fun, okay? So the majority of my audience is in the mortgage business, to a smaller degree real estate, and then I've got a bunch of people just kind of in financial services that are in and around my orbit. So I think anybody will benefit from this. But for people that don't know you, I would love just a quick little snippet of. I know that you got into mortgage banking right out of college. I think you went to work for a bank for a short period, and then Gildan, like you've never left. Like you've just been
yeah.
there for a long time now, right?
No,
Do I
no,
have it correct?
yeah, pretty close there. I'm celebrating 11 years next
Wow,
week with Gil
so
Morgan.
cool,
So
so
I've
cool.
really grown up here and had babies here and joined right after I got married. No, I went to college and had an academic scholarship, not because I'm smart, but because I'm all in. And I was that girl
Perfect.
that just, I took note cards to the extreme. I had to pass an AP exam. I had like 4 feet of note cards and memorized every single one of them. And was just diligent to create a successful life and was
Yeah,
told if you go to school and get good grades and that'll be what happened.
yeah.
And then I dropped out after 1 year. College was really disappointing to me. I really felt unstimulated. I felt like most people were trying to kind of avoid reality and stretch out a cake
Mm,
party.
yep.
And so I joined the network marketing industry and I sold,
Wow,
yeah, weight loss, hair care, skincare, vitamins. That's what I did
wow.
that was my college education for 4 years.
Oh, see, I got goosebumps on that. I love that. I love that more than you know. And I think you probably know that while Mike Rowe talks about the trades, like, are you familiar with Mike Rowe and his whole thing
I
about college?
no.
Oh my goodness, Shayla, you need to. So Mike Rowe, Rowe, he used to have
Okay.
a TV show called Dirty Jobs, but now he
Oh,
has arguably one of the, I don't know, top three podcasts in the country, right there with Joe Rogan. They're very short, but he's got this whole movement on. Oh my goodness, you guys! Like, why are we feeding these, student loan machines and these college machines when, for him, it's like go become an electrician, go become a plumber. I mean, you filled out enough 1003s for people that are
oh yeah.
plumbers and electricians, like they can kill it, right? And they didn't
Yeah.
have to go get a college education. But I love the path that you took, because one of the people I had on my show is actually I call her my daughter by choice. Holly Reed is with Rodan and Fields. I'm sure you know Rodan and
Oh
Fields,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she kills it in that space. Like Holly is literally a former Disney princess, like Disneyland Esmeralda. You have two girls, right?
I think I've heard of Polly actually. I
She,
think of that. Yeah.
right? She was Esmeralda and she was Belle at Disneyland. So she has this amazing, bigger than life personality. Everybody loves her. She's beautiful. And then this opportunity came along and she just stepped into it. And, she's now, I mean, she's literally my daughter by choice, not formally adopted, but she's my girl. And, she just owns that business. So what I've learned about what they now call, of course, direct marketing, is that some of the very best training in the world that you can get is in that arena, because it has to be, right.
Yeah.
You're talking to friends and relatives about stuff that they may or may not need, and they don't really understand whether or not they're actually just, feeding your economy, or if this is actually a good idea, or do I have to warehouse product. And so anyway, I'm thrilled to hear you say that. I love that that's the way you got into the business. I have to stop right out of the blocks, though. You said when you were a student using note cards, I've just never heard anybody say that to me before. You said I got an academic scholarship, not because I was smart, but because how did you say it?
I was all in.
You were, that's how you said it. Yeah. You were All in, baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a sticker coming to you after this interview, by the way. Feel free
I
to put
love
that
it.
on any water bottle that you choose to hike around the mountains with, or your laptop. But then you said, I was diligent to build a successful life.
Yeah.
So I think you know that I coach one of your friends, Terry Hefner, and I asked Terry this morning. You probably wouldn't be surprised to know what he told me. I said, "Look, I don't know Shayla, dude. Other than just by reputation, I don't know her. And so if there was something that you wanted me to make sure that I brought out, what would it be?" And he said, "Well, she's a grinder." That was the first word that he used, right? She's a grinder. Um, she has a way of bringing out the best in people. What a wonderful quality, Shayla Gifford. Do you feel that is accurate?
Yeah, I do. And I do think I learned that in network marketing, actually.
Yeah.
I really do.
I get it. And I want to encourage people because I think what happens in that, if you think about that kind of training, I mean, let's be honest, in the mortgage space that you and I are in, if we're really honest, like I have a reputation for being the gray haired guy who's willing to be brutally honest. So here we go. Um, you haven't had to have any real sales skills or even relationship skills, if we're really honest, for the past year. And if
Oh,
you go all the way back to 2010, we could argue it's been a pretty good ride,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like you're trying to convince people to do business with you. It's more like I know guidelines. I know how to talk to somebody about loans, and when the phone rings, I know how to deal with them, which is essentially it's like being the guy on the car lot, right? That's like smoking a cigarette out in front of the car lot. And as long as somebody comes up and, says, "Hey, we're interested in a new car," you're like, "Great, what's it going to take to put you in the car of your dreams today?" Right? That's what that action is. So in the mortgage business, if we're really honest, someone like you with those skills that you learned in network marketing, you actually became a bit of a superhero as you stepped into mortgage because you were willing to work hard. You had learned interpersonal skills, you had learned sales skills. Holy cow, now it all makes sense to me. You
Yeah.
were superwoman without the costume.
Yeah, and I learned work ethic at a young age. I mean, I've had it. It's born and bred in me, and I was the same as a gymnast and as a volleyball player. And in
That's
high
what I wanted to
school,
know. That makes sense to me.
I was reading my homework books on a stairmaster after school. And I think about teenagers today, and they're on TikTok, or they're leaving
Totally.
school at 1 o'clock, and no, that was not me. And it wasn't easy for me, but I was just that determined. So I've definitely got the work ethic. But my mentor in the professional space at a young age, we grinded. I mean, that's the way it was. And so I learned how to build the stamina. I learned how to build the emotional intelligence. I learned how to deal with real rejection. I mean, I'm
Yep.
making cold calls out of the white pages. I spent my 4 years in network marketing in Ohio and Indiana and Chicago. And so I didn't know anybody there. I'm from the West Coast. And so I did this
Wow.
100% cold. And at
Wow.
the age of 19, where nobody takes you seriously on top of
Totally.
it. So, yeah, I really learned a lot of those values and skills. But I did not grow up naturally as a people person. I like
Interesting.
calculus, stats, physics, spreadsheets. I went to school initially for accounting and finance. I like numbers. I never really saw the point in people. I'm definitely an introvert, uh,
Wow.
but I am competitive, and
Yep.
I wanted this successful life, and I started to realize the power of sales and influence.
Yep.
And when I gained the deep appreciation for sales and realizing that sales isn't somebody cheesy, working you over, that sales is a real honor, and sales
Yep.
is about, really listening and understanding the needs of somebody, and then shepherding them and influencing them, helping them get what they want.
Yep.
That is one of the greatest careers in the world. And it doesn't matter where you grew up or what college degrees you got, or You know, if you're
Totally.
black, white, purple, tall, small, male, female, like
Yep.
you can go out and create whatever you want out of life. And I've always wanted to be in an industry that was like that.
Yep.
I don't do drama. I don't do politics. I don't do ass kissing. I just want to provide real value. And
Yep.
if I've earned it, give it to me.
So cool.
If I haven't earned it, if I suck, tell me straight up, because it's the only way that I can learn and grow. And so I build that real appreciation to sales. And getting back to Terry's comment, in order to do network marketing and to recruit people into your pyramid, into your network, it's really about becoming a good finder. And I steal that from my good friend.
Good finder?
A good finder.
Love that.
I steal this from John Israel, who actually just did a Zoom meeting for me an hour and a half ago and wrote the book, Mr. Thank You. And he's talking about, if you're going to live a life of gratitude and appreciation, you literally have to be a good finder, because our brain is naturally looking for what's wrong and what could go wrong in life. And all the reasons that we don't like somebody before we like somebody, you know, we put up the protective mechanism.
Sure.
So I think I definitely had that. I think I was probably more critical, more judgmental, only because I had my own fears of being accepted and because I didn't have the social skills. So I became a good finder. I look for it deep down with everybody that I coach, that I'm around, and I try to find their special gifts and talents, and then just
so good. So good. I love that. That's a superpower. You know, it really is. And you said, I think you said a minute ago, I had to learn to develop emotional intelligence. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
So I would love to hear you unpack that a bit for people. Help them to understand what emotional intelligence is and how you learn to develop it.
Well, I think it's a mastery over your own power, and becoming that powerful, confident person that we all know we can be, but all the little negative voices and the fears that pop up all the time, like, how does that stuff surface and what do we do with it? To me, that's what emotional control is. So when somebody cuts me off, or somebody doesn't accept me right away, or somebody is going to straight up reject me, what are those feelings that come up for me? Defensiveness, embarrassment, wanting to retaliate. I mean, that never goes away. There's like, I don't know, I'm nowhere near enlightened where that stuff just doesn't surface. So for me, I just realized that, work is a playing ground where I get to experience this stuff all the time. And oh, by the way, in parenting, it's even more emotional.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Right.
But with, being in a sales field, all of those things pop up, and then what do I do with them? And is what I'm going to do productive or unproductive? Is it going to help propel me forward, or is it going to hold me back?
For sure.
And I think my why was big enough to gain the skills to get better. Me wanting to be successful and being competitive and watching other people just seem to naturally and effortlessly connect or attract things into their life that just wasn't my experience. I've always had to grind for what I've wanted. I've always felt like I was an underdog for everything that I go after. I didn't have those my husband is like naturally charismatic. Everybody meets me and is like, oh, Shayla's great. Then they meet Galen and they're like, oh, I love Galen. I'm like, oh.
Right.
But I think the reason I've become a coach and I love what we do in our industry and I'm still so passionate is because I know it's possible to go from wherever you are to wherever you want to go if you have a big enough why and if you go all in on it. And that's just simply what it takes.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about that coaching side of you, because now, I'm picturing the high school girl who went to college, who got into network marketing, however that happened. I mean, that maybe is a story for another time, because that really, and then to another part of the country, that's a big deal. That's like a young woman joining the military and being relocated. Holy cow, that's a complete transplant. But anyway, you go through that, you get into mortgage banking, you make a move now to a company which has clearly become your home, and you've been there nearly 11 years. And and during that time when you started coaching, well, I guess you probably were coached by the core before you became a coach, or was that like simultaneous?
Yeah, that's correct. I guess with network marketing, there's a lot of coaching. I mean,
Yeah.
constant,
Yeah.
actually. We would go to a seminar once a month, and the point was to bring more and more people to the seminar. And as I'm growing, I'm training and growing and training. And so, I find that in the mortgage industry, this just really doesn't happen. And I was so ready to be done with that side of my life and get into something different that for the first 6 years, I didn't realize that was vacant in my life. I didn't realize that I really didn't have mentorship or management or coaching or guidance, because I applied all the skills that I had and I was going and I was getting to a certain level of success. It wasn't until I plateaued and I stayed there for probably 2 or 3 years. And the bank that I had worked for had basically shut off my email. They had said, we're making decisions, we're closing offices. It was at that moment when life pushed me onto the sidewalk that I actually got intentional and said, okay, do I really want to be in this industry? Are all the people like this? Because I had seen some people that I wasn't crazy about. I'd seen some practices that I didn't want to identify with. I had also discovered the total workaholic in myself that was stressed out, control freak, working 12 to 15 hours a day. And I wanted, of course, to blame the industry.
Sure.
And then when I really got down to it, and my husband is totally the champion for me in this, because he would always say, nope, you're just doing it wrong.
Nice.
And
nice.
I talk about emotional intelligence, but talk about wanting to attack, and be like, what do you know? Who are you?
Right.
But, those things seep in, and I believe in that statement. You can either be right or you can be rich.
Totally.
So I try really hard not to be right, to really listen and receive guidance, receive feedback, and become coachable. And I was just really fortunate that at that exact time, I went on a long search to find the right company, interviewed 9 different mortgage companies, was not going to settle. I wasn't going to do this business if it wasn't around the right people and the right way. I just wasn't going to do it. It's not worth the money. I don't care.
Sure.
So, and then I found coaching at the same time. I met a branch manager at Guild, Debbie Maggart, and she said, I think you would love being part of the core. And I just didn't even know coaching existed. So I started becoming a student, and then quickly thereafter, probably a year and a half in, started coaching other people. And I've never really stopped. I was a coach on the core roster for probably 5, 6, 8 years, something like that. And then I retired from that. And then I've built a coaching program inside of Guild Mortgage. Terry's helped me build that, and several other people. And, really the coaching that I do is for all the loan officers that work directly for me. So I run a district. I have about 10 different branches, and I coach all the loan officers that work directly for me. And then I help coach other coaches, develop other leaders, develop other coaches to help influence.
Well, I love your run. I think it's been exciting. This is a cool place, particularly for a young woman. I have such a heart for young women in our industry, because if we're honest, again, which apparently I tend to do a lot, that's why I continuously say that, we are an industry full of 65-year-old overweight white men. We just are, right? Historically, so we've been. So I think it's cool when we start seeing more women, particularly young women, involved in our industry. And I just love to see it. And I'm just blessed for whatever reason. I have a lot of women in my life that I coach, one of whom told me today, so we're having this conversation. This would be a conversation you would have in coaching. And I asked her a while back, about 2 months ago, when she was just redlining, like everybody was in the mortgage industry. And I said, so what do you, she'll do, I don't know, 750 units this year.
Wow.
And she said, well, what do I need to do, Coach? I need to hire more people. And I said, well, that's one possibility. What do you think there's any others? Like, do you love your life right now? Is this good? She said, well, I'm making ridiculous seven figures, and everybody's doing well, and I'm bonusing people, and like all of that's great. But dude, you know as well as I do, she had no life, and she wasn't balanced, and she was highly stressed, and no time off, and all of this in the middle of COVID. It's a pretty bizarre time, right? And so where we ended up was, I said, well, let me ask you this. If 75 units a month, which was her high, was like the red line on that tachometer with your car going, then what RPM like works for your team? She said probably 30 units a month.
Wow.
Interesting, right? So what if you built your business optimally around 30 units a month? Do you still make enough money? Yep. Do you lay anybody off? Nope. Are they making good money? Yep. It's like, then why are we doing this? Like, right? Yeah. Why not just manage it on your terms? I've got clients that are watching me now will know that I always ask them, like, on your terms. What are your terms? The beauty of this business, you figured it out, Shayla. You figured it out. So much so that, if I understood correctly, you took a sabbatical with your family in Spain.
Yeah, I'm still here.
You are? Right on.
Yeah, no, I never took a sabbatical. I love that word. To a grinder, that's like, no way, I'm not taking.
Good point. This is not Sabbath for you.
Okay. I'm grinding always.
Fair enough.
No, similar about on your terms. About a year and a half ago, another coach I had hired, he was coaching me, and I said, listen, I've been coached for a really long time, but I love being coached. I love the relationship. I love accountability. Yep. The minute that we all say, I got it, is the minute we go, totally. Burn up. Right. And so totally. I always like to say, let's celebrate success. I love celebrating. I'm really good at that. But where are we broken, and how are we going to improve, right. And how can we lean in? And so I said, listen, I'd love to be coached, but you can't ask me how many leads, how many deals, how my team's doing, or not how my team's doing, but how's our conversion, how many phone calls, like all those are off limits. You cannot ask me about any of that, how much money I'm making or how much money I'm saving. I don't even want to talk about it. Yep. And he's like, okay, so what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, I want you to ask me if I've journaled 7 days a week, if I've exercised 3 days a week, and if I am a kind and loving parent working with my children every day in some capacity. Oh. That's what I want accountability on. And he said, you can pay me to do that. So after a few months, of course, I've dialed that in, and I'm getting those priorities met. And he said, I said, yeah, I don't really know what we're doing here. I'm not sure like we're accomplishing anything. Of course, I said the rules. And he said, well, it's hard to coach somebody who doesn't have a vision. Right. And that was like yeah. And I just realized that I had outrun my vision. Totally outrun it.
And what you had a hunger for was the things that were missing or weren't consistent. And that's why you were asking him to hold you accountable there.
Right. But what's the next thing that I'm working on, that I'm growing in, that I'm serving? What's my purpose? What's my calling? What am I doing? And so I did a 3-day personal offsite on my own, and had a huge journaling exercise to do, and just got really clear on my values and my purpose, and things that I had done several times, but it's at different stages of life. And I'm 39 now, and so this was probably 2 years ago at 37, and my kids are at different ages, and I had accomplished all the basic needs that needed to be met. I just needed to reinvent. And so I started really thinking about, what would be things that I would regret? When do I feel the most, joy and satisfaction and inspiration? And so anyway, it just came to me to say, you know what, I think that if we were ever going to go do this, if we were ever going to go live abroad, if we were ever going to really spend a lot more quality time with our kids, like really do it, not talk about it, but really do it, now's the time. You know, my daughter's 9 and 6, so we're halfway there. They get to be 12, you can't do it, And so I spent a year, and I really worked on figuring out the holes in my business where I wasn't empowering my leaders, where I didn't even have leadership, where I was standing in the way of other people's greatness. And anyway, so I just started doing
So
that and
cool.
worked with so much intention, and I probably worked way more hours and just felt awesome all of 2019. And that was a banner phenomenal year, super fun. And then we came January 1st.
Wow.
So and then COVID hit 2 months later, and we were in the most stringent lockdown in the Western world here in Spain. I was
Oh
not
my
I
goodness.
was not allowed to go outside, Bill. No walks, no bike rides, no
Wow.
nothing for
Wow.
42 days. So, I just became a teacher, and then I work at night.
Yep.
And we got just so grateful for the simple things, and we were healthy. I mean, we're
I'll
no
bet.
sugar, no dairy, working out, no alcohol. I mean, like we just said, we can thrive in this situation or we can whine about it. And
Totally.
so anyway, but we came home for the summer, and then we just came back in September to do a solid redo and try to really have the experience.
Great.
So let's see.
I listen to you and I just think it's, look, this isn't for everybody, but it's for a number of my clients, just because I tend to coach people who do really well, either originators or branch managers or executives, regionals and senior VPs, et cetera. That's who I tend to coach because I've just been doing this for a long time. But when you coach people, as you know, that do really well, sometimes, and Barry Horn actually brought this up, one of your EVPs at Guild.
He's the man.
He's the man. That is who it's. Yeah, my son used to have a guy. His last name was Theman, Theman. He said the man. He's the man. But that's Barry for sure. And Barry, right? He has these amazing, stimulating conversations that are like Jiffy Pop on a stove with just ideas popping up, right? And he said, man, one of the things that I'm hearing a lot right now is from people that have done really well. And just as you were describing, although you're just at the extreme edge of this, but I want people to think about it. How many times have you heard, Shayla, where somebody says, wow, like I've made the money, I got the toys. Now what? And so that was kind of the conversation that we were having. Barry and I were about this 2.0 thing. And so there's a woman that I coach, very successful in Denver, Colorado. I don't know. I don't want to misquote her volume, but it's big, really big. And we were having this conversation. She's very into investing. Her whole thing is investing. I think she owns 25 or 30 units at this point.
Wow.
She also wants to empower women so that they have choices and options and don't have to rely on marrying a doctor or an attorney or something, right? And they can be the doctor or attorney, or they can also invest in real estate. Anyway, that's her path, right? But she's in Denver, and so it's easy to just kind of stay in that snow globe, right? Literally, depending on the day. But I asked her, why couldn't you be the next Susie Ormond? Like, why can't you be the voice why can't you be Brene Brown? And so I'm kind of asking you the same question, not that I need you to answer that live necessarily, but Shayla, I mean, maybe your head's already there, right? In terms of a book or a show or something more, but seriously, people with your background and experience and what you've built and what you've lived, there are people that will, beyond just the mortgage industry, that will be uplifted. Their eyes will be lifted up to the horizon of what's possible. You've got people right now that are working at Walmart, for God's sakes, that are waiting tables, that are wondering if their restaurant's even going to be open, next month. So for what it's worth, I just want to encourage you that I think you have a bigger voice, and maybe you've already recognized it, and maybe you're ready to step into it. And if not, let me be that person that says to you, Shayla Gifford, you've got more for the world to hear. And I'm glad that I was able to share this today, because it's just one more avenue where we're going to get your thinking, your optimism, your grinder mentality out there that helps people to see that I can be right or I can be rich. And there's all kinds of application there. For you, it's mindset. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say is you just made a decision, right?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, thank you for saying that. I've been kind of praying on that and thinking about that, about what is the next vision, because obviously we've come out here.
Totally.
I still carry some guilt for all the people that I love that work for me, and I'm not in the office with them and hugging them and high-fiving them and eating with them and all those things. We do our very best in staying really connected over video.
Yeah.
Of course, COVID helps because now everybody's working from home or wherever.
This is
So
standard. Yeah.
it's kind of a cool time to be here, and it's been really neat to take this leap and see what's possible. I didn't
Totally.
realize how much fear I would have about judgment in making this move, because I was like, who's going to leave me? Well, what business partners are now all of a sudden not going to want to work with
Right.
me? Or, what envy am I going to be creating? I just always had the mentality of first one in,
For
last
sure.
one out, and that I don't deserve the paycheck unless I perform. And so I did a whole talk on this the other day on
Nice.
dysfunctions and how they've empowered me, but they also can hold you back.
Right.
But now I've taken that leap and I've overcome that fear, because we all know what fear is, but it's a really huge thing. I've been asking myself that same question, Bill, and what is it that I want to do in 2021? We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and like you said, it's on our terms.
Right.
So it's really funny that you said that. I've been receiving lots of different evidence that I should probably put myself out there a bit more to give and serve. But I have my own long list of fears that I haven't quite looked right in the mirror and said, okay.
So I hear that. I mean, look, you wouldn't be human if you didn't experience that. But as you know, that's in your head, the fear, right? There's an old story that you probably heard before, and it's really more urban legend. Like, I Googled it, and this is not legitimately true, but it's a great story. And that's the crab theory. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't.
If you have, so go ask some of your new Spanish friends down by the seaside. Wherever they collect crabs. What happens when you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket? And I'll be interested in what you hear. But what I learned is, I should say it a different way. The story goes that if you have crabs in a bucket, at some point one will begin to climb out, and as it starts to get towards the top, the others pull them back down. Right. So in our world, in network marketing, direct sales, the mortgage business, real estate business, we all understand that at some point, when you began to build what you built, there were other people living average lives who were like, Shayla, like, what are you doing working so many hours? Shayla, what are you doing that, like, live a little, stop that. You shouldn't do that. Nobody does that. Why are you get here so early? I'm sure you heard all those things, right? Yeah. So the crab theory, and I don't say that to diminish anyone. I just think it's human nature. It's just like, it's just human nature. Well, but the thing that I want to encourage you to consider. No, go ahead.
I think it's our own fear projected on somebody else.
For sure.
And I've caught myself being the crab yanking on somebody, because maybe I've lived that pain and I can see you walking into the pain, but it's just obviously not the right thing to do, because we all need to experience that. That's what we're all craving is the contrast and the experience and the learning. So anyway.
So here's another one. Says the 65-year-old coach to the 39-year-old coach. Are you familiar with the what was the other story? The Roger Bannister 4-minute mile story?
Yes, I love that one.
So for people that have not heard this, Roger Bannister in the 50s was the first man in Britain, first man in the world, he was in Britain, to break the 4-minute mile. Up until then, they literally thought, like doctors said, your body will break.
Right.
It's not possible. You can't do it. So he does it in whatever year it was, 1957 or whatever. And the next year, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like 400 people broke the 4-minute mile.
Right.
What changed? Right? Like, the only thing that changed was up here. It was not somebody's body that changed. So here's what you've done. You have proven to people what is possible in this business. The very fact that you're in Spain, went back to Spain. I'll tell you who you remind me of, and if you guys haven't hung out, you need to, is Josh Metal.
I love Josh. Yes, I really.
How do you not love Josh, right? Like, so I coached Josh for years, and I watched who this guy was, and I used him as an example in my book, White Collar Warrior, which I'll send a copy of to you, by the way. You got to send me a mailing address in España, and I'll get it to you. But I used him as an example because you guys are wired the same way. And I remember probably 5 years ago, he told me he was going to take a sabbatical for 30 days. It ended up being 90 days, and he and his family went to Southeast Asia. And the reason, part of the trigger for this, and Josh can correct me on this if you're listening to it, but I remember him telling me at one point, he said, my wife Hillary is saying to me, the kids are in bed when you get home. Like, we can't continue this, right? So I asked him to put something in his calendar, just like you would as a coach, and send me a screenshot. And what it was, I think it was at 6 or 6:30, it said, adios, dinner's on the table, like every single day, right? So he knew what time he had to leave and go home. That way he could be with his children. But he tells this story of being on the beach somewhere in Southeast Asia, Thailand or whatever. And he said his little girl, who maybe was 3, Ariel at the time, took his face in her hands on the beach. I'll bet you've had a moment like this, and just said, Daddy, you're my love daddy.
Mm.
Well, that doesn't happen when you're working until 8 o'clock at night.
No.
The moments that you're creating right now, Shayla, these are things that can encourage people to dream larger, just like Josh did. It's like, man, there's more that I can do here. Jay Kroll, if you know Jay with Cornerstone in Seattle, when his wife got her PhD, I think they went to Italy for 6 weeks, and he had to recreate his team to facilitate the ability to be gone for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
let the people that are hearing you right now, all I want to say is, let them be encouraged and challenged and stretch the idea of what's possible, instead of saying, well, I can't do that. I can't be gone. As soon as I leave, my phone starts ringing. I'm on the phone the whole time I'm in Hawaii. Stop that. Doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop blaming the industry or the business or whatever.
Totally.
Everything is exactly as we've created it.
100%.
And I just coached my guys yesterday and was saying, just because you've done it this way up until this point does not mean it needs to be that way tomorrow for the next phase. And it's really about the intentionality. And I think
absolutely,
the problem is most people get to a point of pain and they pull back.
That's right.
I think the difference for me is I get to a point of pain and I go, okay, pain, we're dealing with this.
Right on.
We're doing something. And we're going to make shifts, and it might not be the right shift, but we're going to take action, because inaction makes me feel hopeless. It makes me feel crazy.
I love that.
And so every bit of pain that I've experienced along the way, and it's my own feelings of guilt or my own feelings of shame or my own imbalance or my own health. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I've been sick of, like every month for a while, and then I'm getting too many headaches, and then I've got pain, and I'm going, hello, the body is telling me what to do.
Absolutely. I should listen. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is my income's never gone backwards.
So cool. So cool.
And of course I've had to be willing to say, okay, maybe I don't need to make as much money. Is this why I'm staying till 8 o'clock at night? Is this why I'm holding my breath and I'm tensing, because I feel like I have to hit, 500 loans to close this year, or break this record, or be number one, or whatever. Yep. And it's amazing when you just relieve the pressure a little bit and get more intentional and get creative and actually step back for a second, that you can see what's possible. But no, I'm so happy that you do these podcasts and you expose people and make connections, because for me, that changed my life. I mean, actually meeting other loan officers that were far more successful than me.
Sure.
Go, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, to be clear, you cannot be a loan officer originating internationally. I had to be in a comfortable place to say my team is good enough to run without me leaving and suffering. And that was such a good experience, to leave a legacy of my team and to continue to serve in ways that are meaningful and to rise everybody up, and so that's part of me.
I love that.
My convincing of myself, Bill, of continuing to grow or expose myself more or put myself out there or take on new projects is like, I know that every time I've grown, the people around me grow, because I just force it, and it's attractive and they want to do it.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you're doing. I know we've hit the end of our time together, but as I listen to you, Shayla, I picture a little blonde girl in a leotard, in a pommel horse or a balance beam with chalk on her hands, probably taped up with a hurt wrist or an ankle or something. And you just said, you know what? It's pain. but I'm going to work through it because I'm going to nail this. And my guess is that you were that girl, and that girl is who you've brought into the mortgage industry. And the thing that I'm probably most inspired by right now is that you are so relatable. I think that you don't. Terry was right when he said to me, you have a way to connect with people and bring something great out in them. And I just want to reiterate to you, I am 100% convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is just a part of your story. It's another chapter of your story, and there are more chapters to be written. And I want to encourage you to dream even bigger, because there's more that you can bring to the world. And this world right now needs a whole lot more Shayla Gifford sunshine. So you keep spreading it.
Okay, I will. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. So my pleasure. Shayla, I loved hanging with you. I look forward to doing this more. We should probably connect more, so I'll look forward to that. And when you guys are back in the States, let's figure out a way to break bread or something with our families. I would enjoy that.
Would love to. Happy Veterans Day.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Take care, Shayla.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.